HMAS Australia, an 8-inch gun cruiser proudly serving the land whose name she bears. Built in 1928, her battle honors include Dakar, the Coral Sea, Guadalcanal, and most important Pacific actions. She was a flagship, but now we have a new one, HMAS Sydney, another historic name in naval warfare. But Australia is still serving as a training ship now for recruits learning to be sailors. They go to sea with the fleet after graduating from Flinders Naval Depot. Holystoning the decks is a very ancient art, but the modern sailor doesn't scrub decks on his knees, which is why holystones are called what they are. Ratings learn their seamanship the practical way, at sea. They become accustomed to shipboard routine, are taught seamanship to handle anchors and cables. They become adept at splicing and boat work. They're on the way to be good seamen, with a knowledge that will fit them for life and out of it. Commanding HMAS Australia is Captain George Oldham, RAF, who, with his executive officer, Commander R.P. Power, has the responsibility of training about 1,200 men who pass through the ship each year. But it's not only the upper deck ratings who run a ship. Stokers must be trained too, to watch and maintain the powerful turbines that send the heavy cruiser surging forward to keep open the sea lanes, arteries of Australia's trade. Communications are vital too, and here with the fleet in company, radio and the wartime miracle radar get a thorough testing. This is practical training, always interesting, always instructive. The Navy's come a long way since Nelson's day, but hoisting flag signals is still a most important method of passing messages at close range. So is semaphoring, especially when wireless silence must be maintained. And where distance between ships is greater, the signaling lamp's used. It can be read right to the horizon. A friendly seabird, reminder of the ancient mariner. But men of the RAN are modern mariners with the best technical and scientific equipment yet developed. A modern warship can't afford to wait for port to make repairs, and Australia's machine shop can handle just about anything in the way of damaged equipment. Training in this shop as thorough and practical as it could ever be ashore. But we're by no means ashore. Out there on the port beam is the flagship, her Fireflies and Sea Furies poised, ready to strike. She's a grand sight, isn't she? Lucky cat. He's got 9 lives and he's spending them all in the Navy. You get about ship's biscuits in the RAN. Every day, bakers turn out bread and rolls to serve 700 officers and men. That's a fair-sized order at any time. But with the sea air to whet the crew's appetites, they need lots of baker's dozens. Hey, there must be some mistake. Or is that chicken he's slicing? And to think they're getting paid for a life like this. In the Navy, there's never too many cooks to spoil the broth. The food's good. It has to be to come to present Navy standards. Apart from normal meals, ratings have a shipboard canteen where goods are sold at special prices. Why, believe it or not, you can actually buy Australian cigarettes there, and not from under the counter. Most RAN ships have adopted the cafeteria style of eating. And if you want to know how to make a square meal go round, just ask any one of these fellas. We've been at sea for a few days now, and so, of course, there's a lot of washing and ironing to be done. On board, ratings wear working dress, but they take pride in having their uniforms smart. With 700 to wash for, there's no limit of 9 pounds dry wash in this laundry. And they've even got ironing machines. No wonder every girl loves a sailor. Theory is not forgotten as training progresses, but lectures are made more interesting and more easily understood by using films to illustrate the subject being discussed. And while all this is going on, we're steaming steadily southward. Remember all that activity we saw in the ship's laundry? You see the result of it now, as officers and men march to divisions for inspection by their commanding officer. And not only the men. The captain will do rounds in every part of the ship to see it's clean, tidy, ready for any emergency. After divisions, all hands off watch muster for church, with the ship forging ahead at 20 knots. Commander Power reads the lesson under an open sky, with the sea reaching out to the horizon on every side. You can't play football on the quarterdeck, but the confined space is no obstacle in a tug of war. And these hefties really put some beef into it. Recreation's encouraged in the Navy, but the RAN does not usually send in a corvette against a battle cruiser. If he landed a haymaker, his shipmate would probably make a forced landing on Sydney's flagship. No room for football, but deck hockey's different. Just like ordinary hockey, but faster, and with the added thrill of ring balls sprinkled liberally around the deck to trip the unwary. This voyage is taking Australia to Storm Bay and Hobart. Many of those on board have never visited Tasmania before, but join the Navy and see the world isn't just a recruiting slogan. It's a fact. All eyes seek land. And there it is. What a life this is. Training, travel, first-class conditions, and an adventurous career. With Mount Wellington as a majestic backdrop to these modern fighting ships, the fleet moves into port. It will stay a few days at this magnificent anchorage. With a roar, the giant cable attached to Australia's anchor goes down. It needs to be heavy to hold the big cruiser steady. There are 14 ships in this combined Commonwealth nations fleet from Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, and the Royal Navy. The most representative muster of ships ever to hold peacetime maneuvers in the Southwest Pacific. One highlight of this Tasmanian visit is a naval regatta, with tough seamen and stokers pulling heavy whalers through the water like an Olympic Games team. The trainees know a lot more about boat work than they did. They're really part of the Navy now. After the regatta, ships move alongside Hobart's fine deep-water wharves, and the people of Australia's southernmost capital come aboard to spend a day with the RAN. And when the fleet's in port, there's no shortage of volunteer guides, especially when the visitors are young and attractive. All of which to show that sailors do care. New friendships are made, old ones renewed. Not, of course, forgetting a few budding romances. Some ratings visit historic Port Arthur, the early convict settlement. Convicts were brought here in 1830. The settlement was not abandoned until The ruins, softened by time, are picturesque today. But 100 years ago, Port Arthur was a name feared by convicts. The ruins stand as a reminder of those grim days when to steal a loaf of bread in England meant a sure ticket of deportation for life. there's work to be done. Crews are piped to stations for leaving harbour, and Australia and the rest of the fleet begins to move slowly to sea. But girls, they left behind them. Yes, there are a few sad hearts ashore and afloat, as the Navy says farewell to Hobart. Destroyers and frigates lead the big fleet to sea for the last stage of this important exercise. Battle maneuvers off the southern Tasmanian coast. It's a comforting sight in times of international tension. Australian destroyers and frigates with Sydney and Australia, a New Zealand cruiser and destroyers, British submarines and Pakistan frigates. The Commonwealth navies in a joint attack. Nearing the rendezvous at Safety Cove, where Royal Marines will assault the coastline, Sydney launches its Fireflies and Sea Furies to strike the beachhead and strike the enemy defences. Sydney's Australia's first carrier, but already her pilots have made thousands of landings and are proving that the Navy is just as efficient in the air as it is on sea. With guns blazing, the carrier planes roar in low-level attacks that would soften up any defenses. Captain Oldham on Australia's bridge gives the order to open fire. Eight-inch, 4-inch and anti-aircraft weapons, concentrated firepower. This old warrior blasted many Japanese shore concentrations in the Pacific War. And how's this for accuracy? That beach would be a mighty unhealthy place for any defenders. Now the cruiser's barrage lifts, and Royal Marines from New Zealand cruiser Balluna pour ashore. Wartime experience has shown the RAN just how effective naval bombardment and naval aircraft can be in supporting a seaborne invasion, and the Marines do the rest. The dawn attack's completely successful. Sydney's aircraft, which have continued to give support until the Marines are established, come back to land on. You can see for yourself how well these pilots are trained. Perfect landings on a flight deck that must look very small from the air. The batsman gives his signal to show the pilot just how he's approaching. And skill and the confidence that comes from practice and training does the rest. Australia's a proud ship and a proud Navy. The Nelson tradition of service and efficiency hasn't changed, despite the rapid modernization of ships and equipment. For the Royal Australian Navy offers its men a career of endless opportunity with travel, adventure, and practical instruction to fit them for life within and outside the Navy. The Royal Australian Navy, protecting our sea lanes, training our defenders of today and tomorrow.